Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm delighted to welcome you to the inaugural meeting of our exciting new multi-participant project, NEXTLOOPP Americas. My name is Chris Radway, and I will be the moderator or master of ceremonies for this webinar. I'm proud to be the project manager for NEXTLOOPP in Europe, which is the successful project we're building on in establishing and running NEXTLOOPP Americas. Shortly, I will hand over to our two main speakers today, who are Professor Edward Cozier, President of NEXTLOOPP Americas and Managing Director of NEXTLOOPP, and Marcio Amazonas, Vice President and Project Manager of NEXTLOOPP Americas. But before I do that, I would like to give you an introduction and then a bit of background about our NEXTLOOPP project in Europe. So this inaugural meeting of NEXTLOOPP Americas is for members and prospective members, and it follows our three introductory webinars in October and November last year, at which some of you were present. We plan to hold quarterly members meetings, and the next one will be on Wednesday, the 24th of September at the same time as this one, so please do note that in your diaries. And we will also be issuing regular newsletters for members. NEXTLOOPP Americas aims to address the challenges of closing the loop on post-consumer, food-grade, mechanically recycled PP in North and South America through building on NEXTLOOPP's wealth of expertise and experience. This experience ranges from trialling unique grades of high-quality recycled PP, trademarked pristine and produced using NEXTLOOPP's decontamination technology, right through to setting new standards for food contact packaging solutions. We are continuing to invite organizations across the PP value chain to join NEXTLOOPP Americas and be part of this dynamic collaborative initiative. So please join us if you have not already done so. So next slide, please, Ed. Now, this is the agenda for today, which is very close to the agenda we sent out in our meeting invitation and link. So following this introduction, I will give you a bit of background on NEXTLOOPP in Europe and our track record. Then I will pass over to Marcio to detail our NEXTLOOPP Americas mission. Then Marcio will hand over to Ed, who will talk about the status of PP recycling in the USA and the economics of recycling polypropylene. Then Ed will introduce our NEXTLOOPP Americas Foundation members, and he will continue to present our deliverables and end goals and our 10-stage program. Next, Ed will cover NEXTLOOPP innovations and design for AI sorting and recycling, followed by NEXTLOOPP decontamination technologies and the trials we have run with project members. Lastly, Ed will finish by outlining the value and benefits of joining NEXTLOOPP Americas, and then we will open up to Q&A. So during the event, please put questions you'd like to ask into the chat. If they're simple questions of clarification, we may respond in the chat. Otherwise, we'll aim to cover them in the Q&A. If we don't have time to respond during the event, which I hope we do have, but if we don't, we'll get back to you afterwards. We are recording the event and we'll do so up to the Q&A, and we'll make available the recording on our website along with the PDF of the slides. Next slide, please, Ed. Now, regarding our antitrust statement, which is shown here, I do need to highlight to you that to keep all of us compliant with regulations preventing anti-competitive behaviour, we all need to respect and comply with this antitrust statement, which we have circulated to you with the meeting invite and link. So, for example, by not discussing any sensitive information in relation to your business. And please remember that by participating in this meeting, you agree to comply with this statement. Next slide, please, Ed. So now a bit about our highly innovative NEXTLOOPP project, which has been running for over 4.5 years now, since October 2020, and is based in the UK and focuses on Europe. In fact, as shown here, over 1/10 of our approximately 50 participants are actually based outside the EU. So next slide, please, Ed. Now, to review briefly our track record, we have recycled many tons of post-consumer PP packaging and created 7 unique grades of our trademarked pristine RPP resins for testing and trial by our members. We have completed nearly 60 commercialization trials using our drop-in resins, including hybrid grades kindly made for us by Ineos, one of our major resin manufacturer members. We have achieved outstanding results in terms of processing, dimensions, mechanical properties, and food compliance test results. So we have proved that post-consumer PP can be sorted with high yield and purity and be decontaminated for sale as food grade RPP for inclusion in new packaging. We submitted technical dossiers to the FDA, the EU's EFSA, and the UK's FSA over 2 years ago, and we have been actively supporting the regulators' review of those dossiers since then. We completed a rigorous study on contamination of recycled polypropylene. We finalised AI trials to separate food grade from non-food grade post-consumer packaging, and recently have been looking at further innovations at AI separation, which Ed may be able to give you an update on later. And now AI sorting of food grade PP is commercially available. Our food grade and inert grade RPP is now available to members. We already have the regulatory authorization to go to market in the UK, and we expect to have this for the EU in quarters 3 to 4 this year. And we expect the FDA no objection letter from the summer. So currently we're about to go into market trials in the UK and are planning to do so in the EU. And we are discussing details of these trials with our brand and converter members. Next slide, please. So now, before I pass over to Marcio, this slide shows some of the complimentary things 3 of our global company members have said about us. I won't read them out, but they're there for you to see. So please enjoy the webinar. Let's have your questions in the chat. And I will now hand over to our NEXTLOOPP Americas Vice President and Project Manager, Marcio, to talk about the NEXTLOOPP Americas mission. Marcio, over to you.
Thanks, Chris. Great intro. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I hope we'll do many good things together in the Americas around PP recycling, food grade. And I just wanted to summarize our destination with these 3 words about the circularity of the most elegant application of plastics recycling, which is food grade. It's also the most valuable. So it brings you to the innovation competitive landscape where recycling solutions can bring differential to the brands. And that brings us to the compliance of regulations and with the standards set by the industry, by the corporations themselves. So basically what we are creating here is a safe space for collaboration from the first part of the supply chain in waste management, in reclamation, into all the steps that technology will bring us to compliant quality food standards resins that will be used by the end users, like food packaging in general. But before it's even approved and legal, it can also be used in sensitive contact like cosmetics and other applications. So we've done this, as you you showed, Chris, it's something that we could replicate in the United States and in the entire Americas, which is a much larger market for the resins, but also challenging environment because you involve human aspects of collection and selection, sorting, but also high volumes and technology-driven operations that close the loop. The numbers are very impressive on the PET side to begin with. It's the easy part. That's where we were 20 years ago. And now it's time to move into the polyolefins. So I'm really excited to lead this journey in the Americas. Call me anytime you need any questions about this, have any clarification. And I'll pass that to Ed to tell you all the details of what we are going to do. Thank you. You're on mute, Ed.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Marcio, and thanks, Chris, for the introductions. And welcome everyone to this launch webinar. I don't need to say too much to the audience in terms of why we're focusing on PP. We all know it's an amazing polymer, very widely used in packaging. It's one of the most versatile materials around. It's used widely in applications like textiles, carpets, and in the area of packaging, we have a whole range of formats made by thermoforming, injection molding, extrusion, blown film. And of course, it's been an anomaly in terms of its rate of recycling. In the US, only 8% is being recycled. But in volume terms, it's a big volume polymer, 8 million tons in the US, over 1.2 million tons being used for household applications being put on the market. And we want to address this gap and increase the opportunities for the Americas to create a circular pathway for polypropylene. And as Marcio was saying, we feel that polypropylene is on the same journey that PET was on many years ago. If we turn the clock back to 20 years ago, there was little recycled PP going back into food applications. And it required a bit of time for the business world to gain the confidence to start to use recycled PET. But once it was proven, the whole process took over and the business world started to create the investment and the recycled materials being manufactured on a bigger volume basis. And now it's one of the big success stories of plastics recycling globally. And we can see that while PET bottles are recycled at 33%, we can potentially replicate that with PP in a more mature market. So we know that if we demonstrate that polypropylene can actually make good food grade products, it will encourage all of the sectors of the industry to be involved. And what we want to do is create the market pull for this to happen. So we want to actually go to the food grade applications and then go back to the converters and the waste management companies so they can actually start recovering this material and pull it through the whole collection system. This is the statistics from the Recycling Partnership showing the volume of material that's actually being generated and the volume being recycled. Something like 95,000 tons of PP being recycled from containers in the US. So it represents that there is a huge opportunity for the recycling industries to capture the balance of this material, even the material that might be easily captured. And there are substantial opportunities for businesses to capitalize on this huge volume of material that is in big demand, but in very short supply in the US. And when we first started to look at the US market, because we were encouraged by some of our colleagues in the US who are on a similar journey to promote PP recycling, we started to look at where is PP being used, and we couldn't find many applications where it was being used in food contact applications. And we can see that, yes, it's not It's not a bottle, so it doesn't get selected as easily. It's in various formats like the pots, tubs and trays. And so there's work going on in the US to encourage the collection and separation of these materials at the collection sites and the MRFs. But there isn't necessarily the confidence in brand owners to put food grade recycled materials into finished products. And this is despite the fact that there are multiple LNOs that have been recognized by US FDA, and we still only see low volumes of PP classified in this area. And this means that the price for food grade recycled PP is actually quite high. So we hope to come into this space to help the businesses resolve the gap that's currently there. So we want to give recyclers the confidence and the technologies to be able to go to market and to put high quality food grade material into the converters' hands so they can make packaging products for the brand owners. And we've had 5 years of experience of looking at all of those aspects, and we'll step through some of those stages very shortly, going through some of the things that we've been doing. And we hope to address this gap of having well-recognized polypropylene content into brands that are on the market right now, demonstrating to consumers that PP is highly recyclable and being recycled into food packaging. Just a quick comment on the economics. This is a slide that's been released by ICIS in May this year, so it's very current, and it's looking at the price of virgin and the price of post-consumer PP, and we can see that the current market for post-consumer pellets black is at a discount to virgin resin. But if we look at the prices for post-consumer pellets for white and natural, we can see they're quite considerably at a premium to virgin and also to conventionally recycled PP. And so we believe that there's a very substantial incentive for recyclers and for the whole supply chain and the waste management side to recover PP from the post-consumer stream, process it and bring it back to food grade. In terms of process economics, the process economics for PP back to food grade are parallel to the process economics for PET. For people who are experienced in recycling, that should not be a surprise. What that does mean, though, that there's a significant advantage for recyclers to actually invest into food grade PP recycling and to create the flow of material from post-consumer all the way through to the brand owner and their packaging products. So some of the drivers I think that will be enabled by the NEXTLOOPP program will be the capacity to boost food grade PP supply. Now, we also will work with existing recyclers who currently have LNOs, and there will be a separate accreditation program where we will make sure that companies who are currently have LNOs will be able to meet the markets and the demands of brand owners and compliance with food grade requirements. We're very experienced at doing this. We've done this multiple times all over the world, and we'll also help those companies with facilities like laboratory testing and any compliance issues they may have. We'll also help create the higher volumes of high quality resins, and this will eventually come through to reduction in costs. One of the things that we can do now with our work on AI sorting is we can reduce the sorting costs associated with separating food packaging materials. It means we can access large volumes of PP from post-consumer sources and sort them at very low cost compared to the strategies that were available up to now, which was essentially manual sorting. And this is done at high speed and without the use of markers, just using AI recognition of product features. One of the things that we're promoting in the recycling of PP is to use between 30 to 50% as a typical recycled content for PP packaging. And there are a number of reasons for this. It monitors the cost for brand owners, and it keeps those costs lower, especially if virgin prices are low and recycled are at a premium. But it also allows us to tailor the rheological, mechanical, and aesthetic properties of the finished product. And I know a lot of companies like to go to 100%, but in the recycling world, it's harder to match processing properties and recyclate properties in every particular application. So blending with virgin gives us the capacity to make drop-in replacements. And the fact that we can tailor these drop-in replacements means that we don't need to make any changes to the processes or the tooling or any of the production stages that are required for making products. We believe that if we can produce food-grade PP for brand owners, it will reduce any eco-modulation costs that may be faced in states where we've got extended producer responsibility, and we know that we can achieve this with PP in a wide range of applications, going from injection molding to thermoforming and going down to film grades as well. Our goal is to replicate the success of PET in the market with PP. We know the pathway, we've got the steps, we have the technologies to do that. We're starting the program with a number of foundation members who are very well known to us from the European programs, and we're really proud to announce that these companies have stepped forward to say they're on the journey to assist the NEXTLOOPP Americas program get underway. So we have TOMRA, who are our expert partners in sorting and now especially in AI sorting, GNOIS and NGR, who are supplying the very important decontamination steps for the food grade recycling process. We have Hydrodyne Recycling, who are a specialist in cleaning of materials and the removal of surface materials like inks and adhesives. Advanced Plastics, who are also in the area of design of plants. And so we have the capacity to talk to companies and to lay out the full plant, specify the full plant, and if necessary, go all the way through to design and build. Angiep, who one of our partners from the program, based in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia. They are a great partner because they've been working on creating food grade materials, a great recycling company. Beckhardt, who are very well known in the steel and filtration of materials area, and Eunomia, who are involved in our policy and other areas of creating reports on plastics recycling. So our foundation members are really the starting point, and of course they'll be the building block that will welcome all of the other companies that will come into NEXTLOOPP Americas. So in terms of what we'll be doing in the program, we've got multiple steps, and I'll just spend a moment outlining what we're going to do. So we will be working with waste management companies in the US and doing audits around the Americas. We'll start in fairly specific areas, but we'll be doing audits on the waste streams. We're very cognizant of some of the earlier work that's been done already by groups like the Recycling Partnership, but we will actually target materials that will be set and ready for conversion into food grade PP, because we want to define precisely what is the composition of the food packaging and also what is the composition of the non-food packaging. Both aspects are really important because in sorting, we know that we can have mis-sorted materials, and we need to know the impact of non-food on the food grade materials. We will be setting up and demonstrating AI sorting in the United States. We've got a wonderful cooperation with TOMRA, who are setting up a special facility to do exactly that. We can say more about that at a later date. But for companies that want to come and see AI sorting of food grade into non-food grade, we have a demonstration happening at TOMRA Research and Development Facility near Koblenz in September the 17th. So if people want to come along to that, you're more than welcome. I know it's a bit of a journey, but if you have associates in Europe, they may wish to come. We're going to work with organizations who are in the US already, who are working on collection and waste management to create those streams of PP to help deliver material so that we can actually take these through the process of recycling. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to pre-qualify existing RPP resins that do have an LNO, and we'll look at alignment with NEXTLOOPP standards. And the reason we're doing this is to give assurance to brand owners that the right science and also the right attributes can be cross-checked, and gives them an independent view on suitability of materials for processing back into food applications. And in this way, existing recyclers can be on the NEXTLOOPP program, putting their resins forward, which means they can bring high quality food grade PP to the market sooner. As a part of that work, we'll be validating any processes that people would like us to have a look at, and we can also take those companies through the process of achieving their LNO status with US FDA. Part of the work that we've been doing in Europe has been working on training AI systems to recognize packaging. And this has been a really important, very intense part of our work in the last 6 months. But what it's meant is that we have developed, first of all, a very effective process for sorting, and there'll be a short video on our AI sorting program to demonstrate this. But it's also meant that we have now understood what the AI sorting systems are looking for, and we've now developed guidelines for packaging design for automatic AI sorting. The other thing that we'll be doing, and we're very happy to talk to recyclers about licensing the NEXTLOOPP process so that they can implement the technologies in the Americas. We'll also get involved with the brand owners and the converters to look at the licensing, looking at the product compliance and the evaluation of any of the products made using recycled content. So that'll involve filling, shelf life, safety, organoleptics, migration behavior. And as I've got there, our last point, we want to be a facilitator. We want to bridge the gap between the recyclers and what they're doing right now and brand owners as they go to reach their targets for circularity. And so you can see the end goals on this slide, in summary: boosting the recycling rate for post-consumer PP, establish that confidence in food grade PP for food applications, hitting those targets that brand owners have to get 30% or higher recycled content in their packaging, and establish new facilities for the recycling of PP using NEXTLOOPP technologies. Now, this graphic shows the program stages and the sequence that we're going to work in. It does show all the points I mentioned. I won't spend too much time here, but in essence, it outlines all of the critical steps we'll be doing. And part of our initial work will be working very much with waste managers, doing the audits, doing the analysis of those materials, doing chemical analysis of food and non-food materials. We'll be involved with the manufacturing trials. We'll be validating the properties of recycled resins. If there are any additional dossiers needed by recyclers, we can assist them with that. And we'll go through all the way to showcasing the NEXTLOOPP technologies to demonstrate that PP can be recycled back into a food grade material and be used in the myriad of applications. So I want to say a little bit about the technology behind food grade recycled PP. And of course, the three key steps after collection at MRFs and separating the material is the refinement of mixed post-consumer plastics into a PP fraction. And then the second step is sorting into food grade. When we first started, we did all this by hand to create the demonstration batches that the technology for decontamination worked. But it was always a point about how do we achieve the separation into food grade. And we had developed very efficient, very effective markers on packaging that were highly accurate and highly effective. However, we realized that we would have to get brand owners to accept to change their packaging by putting markers on the packaging. And yet many PP packages don't have markers. And this is why we moved over to AI sorting. And so you'll see this demonstrated in a moment. Then the next stage after that is extrusion and decontamination. And in the NEXTLOOPP process, we can say that we have two steps. We have an extrusion step, and then we have a second step after that for solid state decontamination. Those two steps are important because polypropylene is not like PET and not like high density polyethylene. It's in a molecular sense different, so it's much more amorphous than high density polyethylene. And so it actually holds on to any absorbed materials much more tenaciously than HDPE. And with PET, of course, we can drive the conditions much harder to drive out any residual contaminants. So we actually recognize that the need for these two steps. But a little bit more about sorting with AI and deep learning. When we were first starting on this process, we spent over a week and doing something like over 3,000 images of various food packaging items, showing the deep learning system what does a food grade package look like, and we showed it in all attributes with MRF materials. So we were training the machine how to recognize products that have actually come through a MRF, had been baled, and then were ready for sorting. And you'll see in a moment how this has been put to work. But the other important thing was we also separated the non-food products. And this is actually quite important because the machine actually needs to be able to recognize non-food as well as food so that it can become far more selective about the proportion of materials it's doing. And we've characterized the yields of the process. So what we can say is this process will achieve very high levels of food grade selectivity. You know, our target was 95%. We were getting over 97%. That's on automatic sorting, which means that we can have a small amount of hand sorting at the very end to do the final polish. And also the other fraction, or the non-food fraction, we actually use in the process. And we have a grade which we call our inert grade. Now, I'll show you a little later the qualities of this inert grade, which it means that the whole fraction of PP is used in a positive way for recycling. So this is a demonstration of the automatic sorting. I'll just see if I can share the audio on this. All right. Oh, sorry. So I think I've jumped out of the sharing. We're back to sharing. Apologies for that. Okay. So I've just started the video again. Apologies for that. So this shows a broad belt with the infeed, which is already sorted polypropylene, but mixtures of all sorts of packages. And we're now setting the selection for food grade, and we're selecting natural food and white food, and we're rejecting non-food, and we're also ejecting color, because at this point we want to get a fraction which will be a mixed natural and white fraction. So this is the reject fraction, and this is happening without any intervention. And this is the food grade fraction, which is natural and white. And we achieved greater than 97%. So this is very reproducible. And we had trained the machine on UK feedstock. And in this particular case, we were using feedstock from Germany. So it showed us that the training was, first of all, very effective, but it also meant that with further training, we'd further boost the performance of the separation process. So some of the lessons we learned that from this sorting step was that in an AI system, you actually don't really know what the machine is looking at in terms of identifying packaging. We did learn, for example, it was very good at separation. So just on casual terms, if you look at a butter dish like this particular one, it was recognizing the rectangular nature of the container. It was recognizing that it had print in the middle, and that we were telling it this is a butter dish. So it would look for those features. In the case of a punnet like this one, and there are many meat trays which are transparent and similar to this, we were finding fragments of trays being recognized as food grade. So it didn't need to be the full tray. So what we realized was that the creases and the ridges and dimples that are present in trays are added to the attribute list. So as long as we make packaging that looks like a package with those attributes, it will be selected as a food grade. And of course, over here we have a non-food PP container, and of course we can add that to the list of items that are being ejected. So there are very important lessons for sorting food grade materials. Now, just moving on to some of the other areas of work that have been explored in our NEXTLOOPP program. One of the things we realized very early is that IMLs and labels are very widely used on PP packaging. And of this, of course, will have an impact. If we leave inks and labels on packaging, we end up with miscolored materials. So this is meant to be a white fraction on the left, and then in the image on next to it, we've got slightly off-colored white granules. But one of our innovations has been to work with our partner companies to really clean those materials. So we can actually delabel and de-ink those materials, so that immediately boosts the yield, but it also consequently boosts the color of the material. There are also food grade implications of leaving inks on packaging and then passing them through the extrusion process. So it has the important benefit of improving food grade compliance and also boosting the yield of the process. And along the way, some of our project partners have introduced their own innovations to the market. So MCC Label have introduced their NEXTLOOPP IML, which is a separable IML label. So it has a fully printed surface, or it can be fully printed. They use non-bleeding inks, and when these materials are put through granulation, the IMLs will separate, and then they can be separated out later out at the air elutriation steps. So you can have a natural colored pot or a white pot underneath fully colored label, and we can get separation of the inks. Also from MCC, one of their innovations was a polypropylene lidding material to replace aluminum lidding materials, because one of the things we noticed when we processed white fractions was that a high proportion of dairy containers had residual aluminum on the polypropylene flakes still floating in the sink float separation and going through to the melt filtration step where they severely clogged the process. So moving to peelable polypropylene closures for dairy products would be a big boost. It reduces rejects, it increases the yield of the recycling, and it greatly improves the recycling process itself. Also, one of our very good partners in the European program is Bostik, who make a series of innovations in this area, and one is their peelable label. I'll start the video while we're discussing this. So this label actually detaches from the product. It takes with it the adhesive and the ink, and if packages are going to be developed with labels, we would be recommending these self-peeling labels which separate out and remove quite important components. So adhesives are an issue for food contact, and for the circular economy, we want to make sure that only the PP goes around the circular economy as opposed to adhesives and any other materials that might be associated with labels. So just going on. So just say a little bit about the decontamination processes. As I mentioned, we have a two-step process, one in the melt, one in the solid state, and these produce our decontaminated material. So on the left of this plot, we've got a GCMS graph of the peaks associated with flakes that have been washed. This is made up of food and non-food flakes, and for our contamination analysis, we analyzed over 17,000 flakes to understand what is in PP as it's recycled. Those peaks could be peaks from polypropylene itself, molecules and oligomers and hydrocarbons coming off, but also some of the peaks would represent absorbed materials. Now, on the right-hand side and the top, we have our food grade material. On the bottom, we have our inert grade. So when we look at the food grade, we can see that there are very much reduced level of peaks. We have some tiny peaks somewhere around the middle, and these are residues from the polypropylene. But we can see these materials have, first of all, no odor. There's reduced fuming in processing. These are very important observations for recyclers because many PP resins have huge gassing issues, but there are none with the NEXTLOOPP materials. Now, surprisingly, when we looked at the non-food fraction, and this is the materials that were left over after we've separated the food fraction, we're also getting excellent properties. So again, no odor, no fuming, and no migrating molecules. So no semi-volatiles. So these materials are ideal for cosmetic applications and automotive where low odor and low migration are key factors, and also freedom from other contamination. So this means the recycler can add value to the food fraction and also to the non-food fraction. This will be a premium grade for those types of applications. As Chris mentioned earlier, we've made lots of resin. We have a number of grades. We're on a very interesting journey with sorting. Some of our European members will have heard what we're doing with AI sorting to broaden the melt flow index range. So we can say briefly right now, we are effectively sorting by melt index. And what that means is we can produce low melt index, which we couldn't do before, and now high melt index beyond the average which we got when we mixed it all together. So very exciting stage. Those results will be available to us around about September. But we already can see the important results on the sorting separation. So there'll be new grades available, and there'll be new grades available in the US. because we know the feedstocks in the Americas are different. We've already seen that on our visits, and as it turns out, there will be advantages in the Americas that are not available in the Europe area. One of the things we've done is we've run, as Chris was saying, nearly 60 commercial production trials. And we take a really engaged way of doing this. So we are fully involved with the brand owner and the converter in planning these trials. And we've had a great success rate in all of the production trials. Our target is to have a drop-in process, so the converter should ideally change next to nothing. And we do that by looking at the materials that are being processed. We look at the recycled material and the virgin material. We'll look at the blend ratios. We do our homework, and then in general, everything works really well. And that's our target. We don't want the converter to have to start to adjust and control and vary things. In some cases, there are minor variations, but in general, our target is not to change them and to create a drop-in replacement. Chris mentioned that our hybrid resins have been prepared in Europe by Ineos. They've been fantastic because they're producing variants of our resins which have, for example, high flow and high impact, and they can be used for things like ice cream containers and other things where you want high flow and you may have to have low temperatures for the application, so you want both. So those things are very applicable, but they fit into our target of having a drop-in replacement. Here are some of the simple and complex products that have been made where we're authorized to show you these products, and you'll see quite complex bicomponent injection molded items, thermoform trays which are made by extruding the melt and thermoforming in a single step, foam trays, injection molded closures. These are all in the range of things that we've tested and many more. So just to say a little bit about what we feel is the value of joining NEXTLOOPP Americas. Well, we think for companies who are entering this field, we can save an enormous amount of time. We've spent 4 years developing and refining the processes and the approaches of working with polypropylene to create a food grade material. So we can come to market much faster. And we think the Americas program will be much faster than the European program. So we'll be providing real value in savings in time. And along with that, we'll be saving resources. Companies that join NEXTLOOPP Americas will be able to rely on the staffing that we'll provide. We'll provide a lot of the engine power to do the analysis, to do the work on preparing audits on material, preparing trials, working with converters, working with brand owners. So we'll be the linking part in a lot of the projects. We have a lot of expertise in our team, and so businesses can come to us, talk to us about the technical aspects, and we can have direct one-on-one support and, as we mentioned earlier, in-depth trial guidance. One of the things we've done at NEXTLOOPP is we've established our own laboratories for detailed analysis of these materials. We've done this because we find we can do this much more speedily, and we can do it to the precision that we found other laboratories couldn't provide to us. So we do have a wealth of expertise built up over the last 5 years in delivering food grade PP. So we've also had the opportunity to work with a wide range of organizations, both from the brand owner's side and also the converter side. And, you know, we'd happily provide references from companies about our work in this area. One of the things we have not spoken a lot about in the program so far are the environmental benefits of using recycled PP. The LCA we conducted on our process shows that we're getting at least 60% CO2 equivalent emissions reduction using the NEXTLOOPP process. This is, a substantial improvement on virgin resin, and of course there are other economic benefits that come along with the establishment of businesses that create the loop for food grade PP. We've put down some of the statistics of what recycling 1 tonne of PP saves. It saves on substantial amounts of energy as part of the LCA calculation, the oil savings, and also savings in landfill. And of course, these are things which are important for the environment. That's one of the drivers for the whole process. But we realise we have to be economic and competitive as well in offering the program to the business world. So in summary, what we're doing in NEXTLOOPP Americas is providing a proven pathway with the science-based expertise on and technical support for going from post-consumer materials at the household all the way going through to products back on the shelf. We will provide brand owners, recyclers and converters the chance to evaluate NEXTLOOPP's technologies. So they can actually see what this looks like. They can see material in their products. They can see how it processes. They can see how it works in food contact applications, and also looking at aspects like packaging design. We have done full technical and economic feasibility studies, and we can apply those studies to the Americas context. So we can use the rental rates, labour rates, utility rates, and put them into our feasibility study and create unique studies for companies that want to establish facilities for the recycling of PP packaging. So that gives them the chance to do the assessment of the economics of the process. We also offer our material for trials in the various formats like sheet extrusion, film extrusion, thermoforming and injection molding applications. And this is something that is quite important, and the guidance that goes along with that I think is equally important, because it often defines the difference between success and failure. And of course, the other benefit is we have a new pathway to creating food grade PP with the NEXTLOOPP technologies. And we're keen to support the companies that want to go into that area so they can have well-established businesses that are successful and competitive in the Americas market. So I hope you've found this launch presentation interesting. We've got new things to do. It marks the start of what we're doing. Marcio is going to be the first person working on the program. We already have other associates ready to start work on the various parts of the program. It will be very much Americas based, and we're looking forward to hearing from companies that want to join us along with the foundation partners and join us on the program. So at this point, I'm going to pause.